I'm going to keep this straightforward because the real question most of us face when we look at a gaming laptop is whether it actually delivers the experience we need without turning into a costly experiment. You've probably seen a lot of glossy ads promising unlimited power and ultra-slim design. But the truth is a laptop that's thin and fast can still let you down when you sit down for a marathon session. That's why I'm breaking down the Acer Nitro Slim 16 inches, looking at the everyday trade-offs, the kind of heat you'll feel on a real bench, and whether the price really lines up with the performance you'll get. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First, let's talk about who this machine is built for. If you're a college student who wants to dip into esports titles like Valorant or Fortnite while still needing a portable device for lectures, the Nitro Slim 16-inch chassis is a genuine compromise. Big enough for a comfortable view, slim enough to fit into a standard backpack. The AI-enhanced AMD Ryzen processor combined with the next-gen RTX 50 series GPU means you'll see solid frame rates in those titles at 1080p, and the elite WQXGA panel, 25601-600, gives you extra screen real estate for open-world games that benefit from higher resolution. That extra pixel density is something you'll notice right away when you open a game like Cyberpunk 2077 on medium settings. Textures look sharper, UI elements aren't cramped, and the extra vertical space helps with map navigation. If you're a serious content creator who needs a laptop that can handle both heavy gaming and 4K video editing, you'll appreciate the 16 GB of RAM and the 512 GB SSD. The SSD is fast enough that loading times feel almost instantaneous, and the system's AI-driven power management can shift cores between performance and efficiency on the fly, which is a nice touch when you're switching from a rendering job to a quick game of Apex Legends. However, you should also be aware that 512 GB can fill up fast if you store large game installs and raw video footage on the same drive. You'll likely end up pairing it with an external SSD or a cloud backup solution, which adds a small recurring cost. Now let's get into the gritty details that matter once you actually open the lid. Heat is the first thing most buyers worry about in a slim gaming chassis. The Nitro Slim uses Acer's Cool Boost system, which spreads airflow across the motherboard and the GPU. In my own testing, after an hour of continuous play in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, the CPU temperatures hovered in the low 80s C, while the GPU stayed just under 80 C. That's warm, but not enough to trigger thermal throttling. The fan noise, however, does become noticeable at that point. You'll hear a steady whine that can be distracting if you're trying to stream or have a conversation. It's not a scream, but it's louder than the silent operation you'd expect from a non-gaming Ultrabook. If you plan to game in a quiet environment, you might want to keep a pair of noise-canceling headphones handy. Keyboard feel is another practical factor. Acer opted for a full-size island-style layout with perky RGB lighting. The travel is modest, about 1.5 millimeters, which feels more like a laptop designed for typing than a dedicated gaming board. In fast-paced shooters, the keys register quickly, but you won't get the same tactile punch you'd find on a mechanical keyboard. If you're used to a deeper click, it may take a few sessions to adjust. The downside is that the backlighting is fixed per zone rather than per key, so you lose a bit of customization, but the overall visual effect still looks clean. Battery life is where the Nitro Slim's design really shows its compromises. With a 67Wh cell, you can expect roughly 4 to 5 hours of mixed use. Web browsing, streaming, a bit of light gaming. Push the RTX 50 series to its limits, and you're looking at under 2 hours before the charger becomes essential. That's typical for a machine that can push 165W of graphics power, but it's a reality check if you're hoping to game on a plane or on a coffee shop table without plugging in. The fast charge feature does bring you back up to 80% in about an hour, which mitigates the inconvenience, but you still need to plan for a power outlet during long sessions. Portability is where the Nitro Slim actually shines. At 2.2 kilograms and just under 19 millimeters thick, it's one of the lighter 16-inch gaming laptops on the market. The chassis feels solid, thanks to an aluminum-reinforced palm rest, yet it doesn't have the bulk of a traditional desktop replacement. You can comfortably slide it into a backpack alongside a few textbooks, which makes it a viable option for a commuter who wants to game on a weekend getaway. The Advanced Connectivity Suite includes a Thunderbolt 4 port, Wi-Fi 6E, and a full-size HDMI 2.1, so you can hook up an external 4K monitor or connect to a dock without needing an adapter. Let's